Welcome to Eric Hates Games. This is a talk show about games, the people who make them, the people who play them, and all of the nonsense in between. There will be tangents, there will be disagreements, but most of all, there will be games. If you have an idea for an episode or have questions that you'd like answered by our esteemed gaming experts, send them my way. This week, we press XXXYY to single-handedly dispatch an entire army. My name is Eric, and I love beat-em-ups. Okay, so when we talk about any genre of anything, we need to first define what that is. So we're going to talk about two main things today, one being beat-em-ups and the other being hack and slash. And we're going to get sort of rectangle squarey. So does anyone want to take a stab at beat-em-ups as a genre definition?
Hack and slash.
I know. Does anyone want to take a jab at beat-em-ups, defining them?
All right, so beat-em-ups, from what I usually gather, usually they're multiplayer, like usually 2 to 4 people, depending on the game.
On the same screen, right?
Yeah, on the same screen at one time. It's not like split screen. And usually there's no swords involved. There might be stuff you can pick up, which...
Turkeys.
Yeah, we could get into brawlers, except I don't know how we define brawlers in terms of beat-em-ups. They're all the same stuff to me.
Yeah.
But generally, you move from one side of the screen to the next. You can move up and down a little, but not very much, and you beat people up with like one button, maybe 2. And if you're really, really lucky, the game will have combos with those buttons.
Okay, so we're talking about one button punching, typically.
Yeah,
and the other button jumping. And then maybe you can dash by double tapping forward?
Yeah, sometimes if you're really, really lucky, it'll be a punch and a kick button.
Cool. Anything else defining features of this, Andreas?
First off, this is cream soda.
Great.
Second of all, I would say like having like those like a boss enemy at the end of each level. Like remember how it was in like the arcade games, because that's where most of the 2D beat 'em ups come from. Is you would have like the stage level, and then you would just keep going every level, and then there'd be like a mini boss at the end. There'd be like some guy, like big beefy guy, or somebody in a helicopter or something.
Yes.
And it's always those, and they would always like try to like challenge you in a way of like all the different strategies that you use to get through the level. All of that would be put to the test during like the mini boss battles.
And then they'll probably shoot out some really dumb, line in very poor English, such as "Welcome to Die." That's my favorite from X-Men, the
X-Men arcade game. Yeah.
Yep. I remember playing that game like when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was somewhere. I was like on vacation with my family. And there was like the hotel that we were at. I think it was either like a Hilton or a Marriott or something somewhere down in like the lower level. They had like a little mini arcade place, and they had like that X-Men arcade game. And I remember just playing that for like all night.
Do you remember how many players it was?
It was 2 players.
Okay, they have that cabinet is arcade cabinet is what it's called, the arcade machine. That cabinet is especially famous because it has a 6-player variant. Where there are 2 or 3 different TVs and 6 people are in front of it playing at the same time. And yes, that is like an iconic beat-em-up game. Each player can punch, each player can jump. They can jump and punch, which does like a dive kick, and they have a special button. And depending on what X-Man you are, you're Colossus, which is great.
I think it's important to note that the beat-em-up genre is like famous for being arcade games.
Yes.
A lot of them have typically gotten ports later on to systems, but yeah, that's the big thing. And another thing is they're always, obviously, almost all of them are 2D, whether that be isometric or just, what's the term for not isometric?
Orthogonal, just straight on.
Yeah, just a straight line. I feel like you see isometric a little bit more though.
Castle Crashers?
Yeah, that would be a modern one.
Yeah.
Final Fight was isometric.
Sure. Yeah. I guess when
River
you're
City Girls.
when you have.
Yeah, I was
a little
thinking
bit-
about that.
River City Ransom is where that comes from.
Yeah, and that's
Which is
a
much
very
older one.
interesting game.
Yeah. And then that has grappling. I think River City
Yes.
Ransom has grappling. So maybe that gets into brawler territory.
Yeah.
But we don't want a third thing today. We only want two only.
Yes.
So this is a binary show. So we have what was that? Beat 'em ups, and then we have hack and slash.
Woo.
What is a hack and slash that a beat 'em up is not?
The difference between a hack and slash is, for one, I've noticed that they're mostly 3D, but basically, the thing I think of the most is that they typically, beat 'em ups, as it would suggest, you punch. Sometimes you have items, but they're limited use. Hack and slash, you're using a weapon. Most of the time, a sword. And typically, they're more complex. What I would typically describe them as, and I've heard someone use this, I'm quoting this from someone, in that they're essentially action-adventure 3D fighting games. They have like the inputs of fighting games, but obviously not the progression of one. And also, as opposed to beat 'em ups, usually they're single-player campaigns.
That's a big difference. I didn't even think about that. A lot of
Yeah.
hack and slash games are just you,
Yep.
not like you and three friends.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that is a big one. And then the complex move set, where depending on what weapon you have equipped, you might be pressing 4 or 5 buttons on the controller at once. You might be holding a button and then pressing a button.
Yeah.
Right? In Devil May Cry, don't you hold one button and press it to launch them in the air?
Yeah, if you want to launch an enemy in the air, you have to press down on the control stick, or whatever, the opposite of the direction you're facing.
Okay, cool. And yeah, that launches them up, and then you can jump up and start hitting them in the air, or you can shoot at them and stuff like that.
Obviously, we'll get into specific games later, but a famous thing that was big with like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta was juggling your enemy. Where once you have them up in the air, you want to keep them in the air as long as possible to get a combo to rack up points.
Yeah, so the combo grading system is kind of inherent in a lot of those games because they are much more fast-paced than a beat-em-up game. I would say, generally speaking, beat-em-up, you're moving left and right, and your move speed is not that fast. It also stops you in beat-em-ups. There are, maybe I could describe them as set pieces. So in Turtles in Time, you literally can't go all the way to the right until you clear the screen of enemies. And that clear the screen mechanic is kind of an older thing in design-wise, but I think it is a big difference between hack and slash and beat 'em up.
Usually, hack and slashes do have some sort of barrier in which you have to defeat all the enemies first, though that's definitely not always the case.
Yeah,
Okay,
pretty
yeah.
much.
Were you going to say the same thing? Like
Yeah,
they put
basically.
the portal that you can't pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Devil May Cry, it's a red door.
Okay. Oh,
Some face
yeah.
that's trying to attack you.
Yeah.
And usually, I feel like hack and slashes have more difficult boss fights.
Okay. In what way?
Once again, I'm using games like Devil May Cry, Metal Gear Rising as an example, Platinum Games, which we'll get into later. The bosses are very tough. The way that they're I don't want to say trial and error, but they're meant to take a lot of tries. They're meant to memorize their patterns, know which works best. It's definitely hack and slashes. I feel like are interesting, where they're either a very easy genre or a very hard one. One of the more easier ones I feel like would be like Dynasty Warriors and its spin-offs.
I would
games.
disagree. Like, when you get into, like, intense Dynasty Warriors,
Really?
they get really freaking difficult.
In what way? Dynasty Warriors, just in case you don't know, and you're just watching the show for whatever reason, Dynasty Warriors is a franchise of hack and slash games where it goes through real history, right?
Yeah, so it goes through Chinese history, and the thing about Dynasty Warriors that everyone really knows it for, which it sort of spawned its own mini sort of subgenre
Yeah.
called Musou games.
The Musou games, yeah.
Yeah, Dynasty Warriors, in that it's a hack and slash, but you're fighting hordes of, like, armies and
you
men.
take like the waves
So, like,
and just like crank it up to like 12.
yeah, so, like, at any given time, you're fighting, like, 50 dudes at once.
Yeah.
And many
and-
of them go down with one swing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not one swing. On the easier modes, yeah.
There's also some kind of, I think, like I'm not saying like tower defense, but there's like some kind of
Base.
There's a little bit of
base,
like
like,
base management
defense, yeah,
and
base management
defense, and
elements to it, too.
it depends depending on the game. Like Some include more or less strategy depending on what it is. Like Dynasty Warriors Gundam is going to be different from Dynasty Warriors Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yeah, like you were saying, there's a lot of Dynasty Warriors crossover games where it's just the same gameplay but with a specific series. They've done Zelda, Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest, One Piece.
Yeah.
And then in a few weeks in Japan, Persona 5.
Persona 5 Scramble, which is a full sequel to Persona 5 as well.
It's canon?
Yeah, it's a
really?
straight up sequel.
Wow.
Instead of like just Persona 5 2, no, it is literally just a straight up sequel.
What do you embody? What's the protagonist? A high school kid?
Yeah, same characters.
You just wait, but okay, so we're kind of getting off on the tangent, but that's okay. These Dynasty Warrior games are also notably fairly open world.
Yeah, so generally each map in Dynasty Warriors is pretty expansive.
It's large.
I would say
Yeah,
open
they're large.
State, I would say I don't like to call it open world when it's just one little like big area. I like to call it
that would be
semi-open.
Dynasty Warriors 9, also known as garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is, in Persona, are you just a student running around the schoolyard?
No.
Because how do you change the level design of
The main thing about Persona 5, going on a very quick tangent, and along with all the other Persona games, is that in each game the main cast has the ability to essentially go into a different world, kind of like a demon world.
Yeah.
And, during the day, they're school students, and then in the afternoon they go into the demon world where they have more supernatural abilities and they fight monsters. So that's how they're able to get away with a lot of these elaborate settings in the series.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be the demon version of each person?
No, they just have, when they go into this world, they can control personas, which I think any RPG.
Think of like Stans from JoJo.
The quickest way to describe it in an episode that's not about personas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you'll be back after this short break. And when you're here, we will talk about some very notable games in these two very, very, connected genres or subgenres of video games. So we'll see you when you get back. We can talk about stuff here while we're going out.
I'm Andrea Lucia, a graduate of County College of Morris. At CCM, I gained a high-quality education, was involved with clubs on campus, and performed university research in tissue engineering. My CCM education prepared me for ongoing success. Today, I am at Cornell University, studying engineering and performing research in cardiac tissue engineering. The professors and staff at CCM helped me to start right and finish strong.
And welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are talking about beat 'em up games and also hack and slash games. So the first half was all about defining these very similar genres. Now let's talk about some important beat 'em ups that are pivotal to the whole genre, right? And games in general. So first we'll start with Final Fight. You ever played a Final Fight game?
No, I haven't.
Anyone play a Final Fight game?
Does Street Fighter count?
Long.
No, Street
Long
Fighter,
ago.
not a fight.
For
Have you?
reference.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
pretty basic beat 'em ups.
Right?
Yeah,
You just move and punch,
pretty much.
and that's it.
The OGs.
Streets of Rage?
I have not actually. Streets of Rage is
That's the
one
one
of
with
the.
that's the one with the you play as the hot dog, right?
No. What
All right.
is this? Is there a game? Is there a beat 'em up
The
game?
Amazing World of Gumball has lied to me.
Okay, in Streets of Rage, you play as either Axel, Blaze, or Skate.
Oh right.
My
And
God,
Skate
those
is
names.
Skate is on rollerblades. He's very fast, but he does less damage.
A big one that is kind of like has kind of like a cult following is River City Ransom.
Yeah. River
And-
City Ransom. Yeah.
And that's big because of its like contemporary setting and your ability to like go into shops and just like buy food and drinks.
Oh, cool.
Is
Yeah.
River City Girls like a
Yes, it is
spiritual
a sequel.
success? Like okay.
It's actually a sequel.
Oh yeah.
30
I
years
was wondering
later.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So other big ones, I know SNES and Sega, SNES and Genesis. This was the generation. What generation was that? 3? 4? Gen 4 systems. This is when a lot of arcade games were being ported to the home, and arcades were starting to die, which we'll do an episode on. And home playing started to go up. And so you have things like Turtles in Time came out. And that was
yeah.
like a really important beat 'em up game. I don't know why. I mean, it's really tight. It also uses the constraints of the genre, where you can only punch and move forward and dash, to allow for some interesting combos. Like if you get close enough to the enemy while they're stunned, and if you hit them while they're stunned and you're really close, you can throw them into the screen. And there's a whole boss battle that's dedicated to throwing the foot soldiers at Shredder in his machine.
I think that's like probably why Turtles in Time was so big, just because at the time Ninja Turtles is huge.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you know, they make a game and that game happens to actually be pretty good, and you combine
Yeah.
those two factors and you get one of the most famous arcade games ever made.
Yeah, and that did start as an arcade game. There were the Ninja Turtles beat 'em ups, The Simpsons.
Oh yeah,
Beat 'em
they
up.
did make a Simpsons
Yeah.
arcade game. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is huge. So I wonder what the correlation is between franchises and making a beat 'em up, like Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
You know,
That
this
one's
one-
actually like really good. As a man that doesn't enjoy many beat 'em ups, the Scott
Oh,
Pilgrim
right.
one's really good.
It is now impossible to play legally.
Right.
Yeah.
It
That's
got
another
blasted.
episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what Scott Pilgrim does that other ones don't do? Because I played it for maybe a couple of hours, and it's great. The graphics fantastic, the music awesome, but like, why did it get popular? Because I know it did.
Well, for one, the movie just came out around that time, which
Right.
is an Edgar Wright film, and Edgar Wright's great, so that certainly had something to do with it.
Mhm.
Comic was decently popular, but also, in general, the combat felt better than most beat 'em ups, at least to me. I haven't played it in a few years, but from what I remember, like, I never understood Turtles in Time, but Scott Pilgrim to me was very easy to, like, play around with and actually enjoy.
Do you just punch? Do you kick? Do you combo?
I'm pretty sure there were punches, kicks, and combos.
Yeah, there's combos in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the different characters had progression trees
Yeah.
also, which is like a newer, let's put every single genre in one game sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where Turtles in Time, there is no leveling up. You have a number next to your name, and that's how many foot soldiers you've killed.
Yeah.
So anyways, Turtles in Time was big. Golden Axe is a franchise,
Mm-hmm.
just like Streets of Rage. Golden Axe is a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Is a fantasy franchise of beat 'em ups where you can play as a dwarf, like a warrior.
What weapon do you use?
So the dwarf uses an axe. He uses a big battle axe. The dude
Carries a sword, I think.
carries a sword.
Kind of looks like a mix between Conan and He-Man.
Yeah, and he's shirtless, right?
Yeah.
He's fairly shirtless. And then the female character, has like a rapier, I think. She has like a little sword.
I think so, yeah.
Or a scimitar. And my friends and I used to always joke about the terrible representation in games where the female character is often faster but deals less damage.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it's just like, okay, great. And it's the same in Streets of Rage. And they're also not well clothed for battle at all. But in Golden Axe, at least, you got a, the shirtless dude as well.
It's another episode. We've come up with 3 new episodes, ideas in the process.
This is the episode of episodes. Yeah, this is the think tank, the Shark Tank episode. Perfect.
But should we move on to some famous hack and slash games?
After mentioning Double Dragon and Battletoads.
Altered
very
Beast.
big.
Yeah.
Altered Beast was big
It's
because
not
it was
very
a
good,
launch
but
game.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, that was a launch game for Genesis.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal because the arcade port was a little bit different. Anyways, but Battletoads, you got to mention Battletoads and Double Dragon.
Battletoads is like
I recommend if you want to know more about Battletoads, I recommend the Angry Video Game Nerd episode.
Yeah, that's good. So let's move on to hack and slash. Someone else tell me about these franchises of swinging your sword.
All right, so I got to start.
Biggest one. You
You
want to
gotta
know the
let me
name?
start.
Devil May Cry.
We both like hack and slashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
All right, so the thing that was so big about Devil May Cry was it was pretty much the first of its genre. I mean, there are other like 3D hack and slash games, but they had like 1 3-hit combo. It wasn't that big, but with Devil May Cry, it really felt like a fighting game, but an action adventure game. And it came out in 2002, developed by Capcom, and the one behind it, the madman, was Hideki Kamiya, and he's important for later. But that's a game that's kind of it's very influential and people still like it, though it's very dated by today's standards. But it introduced a lot of things, like the sword play combined with the guns, which are your 2 main weapons. Basically, the big thing you would do was you would slash enemies up into the air, and then you would repeatedly shoot them with your dual handguns to juggle them up. And there was a lot of combos, different weapons and stuff. But the pinnacle of the series, what a lot of people consider, is a Devil May Cry 3.
Okay.
That's one that to this day people still say is a great game. Pretty much, in my opinion, is like the series perfected. But moving on to that, the big thing is one thing that you have to talk about is Platinum Games. Now, Hideki Kamiya, he left Capcom after a few years that Devil May Cry came out, and he formed Platinum Games. And they are very big on their hack and slash games. The big one is Bayonetta. Imagine Devil May Cry, but instead of a sword, you're using legs.
Yeah, high heels.
And the legs have guns attached to them?
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah. And hair.
Yeah,
And
a lot of
hair.
hair.
You're using hair, legs, and gun high
heel
heels.
guns.
Gun heels.
Yep.
Perfect.
It follows the very similar format to Devil May Cry. There's a combo. It says combo system is deep. You get ranked on. You're great at the end of each mission. And then the other big things that Platinum Games are known for, one, Metal Gear Rising, which is a spin-off of the Metal Gear Solid series starring Raiden, who is the main character of 2. And that's what Platinum Games is known for. Would you like to talk more about them?
I'd like to talk about Nier Automata.
A Platinum
'Cause
Games developed game.
Yes, Nier Automata is interesting because it actually has roots in another series. So, we're going on a mild tangent. So Dynasty Warriors, as we know from earlier, is in fact a hack and slash game. So, around that time, this game came around called Drakengard. Drakengard decided to take Dynasty Warriors combat and Ace Combat and combine the two and make them a very bad game with an amazing story. They eventually made a sequel, and then another sequel, and a spin-off based off the 5th ending of the game. That spin-off was the original Nier, which is a regular hack and slash. Kind of reminds me of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess mixed with a hack and slash. And then, years later, Platinum Games got their hands on it, and they made Nier Automata, which is a sequel to that. And it is excellent, and everyone should play it. Fight me.
That's a good way to end.
Platinum Games also made a Ninja Turtles game, right?
They did.
It wasn't
very
good. It wasn't good.
Something
It wasn't bad.
Shadows.
It just wasn't amazing.
Right?
But
Rise of the Shadows or the Goo Shadow
No.
comebacks.
yeah, but there's also another important thing to note is that another big series besides it has nothing to do with Platinum Games or Capcom, God of War,
Yes.
which you're much more familiar with than me.
God of War is interesting because it's also one of the first big games to use QuickTime events.
Sony Santa Monica?
Yeah.
That's the developer?
Ever since the original game, it was still Sony Santa Monica?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Could be.
It's always been.
It might have been a different name, but that's who it was, yeah.
Point is, there was the original series. God of War follows a very angry dude with 2 swords and a chain attached to them as he slays very large god dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
that's
a bit
bad.
more complexity in that, but
Good old
they
Greek
are
mythology.
they are very juvenile in their original approach, and they've sort of matured more as the series went on. Which honestly, it started off decently more on the mature side, and gets a bit of a bad rep for that, because a lot of people just see it as angry men kill people,
Yeah.
which isn't wrong, but there's a bit more complexity.
If you had to summarize God of War in a few words, that would be it.
Yeah.
No, you can just sum up God of War in one word. Boy.
Boy.
That would be
Sure.
the new
Boy.
God of War.
Which is
So-
not a hack and slash.
I will
Yeah,
say
I
God
would
of
say it
War.
is.
I will
Boy.
say real quickly about God of War, because we're low on time, but design-wise, one thing that God of War did that it was one of the first, if not the first to do this, is frame stops. Meaning when you hit an enemy, and again, you're like Adam said, you're swinging swords which are attached to chains. And every time you make contact with an enemy, the game skips a frame on purpose. It stops everything. It pauses it for like 1 frame. And the result is every time you hit it, there's an impact that you feel like you're really hitting these enemies. When in actuality, you just hit this, this skeleton warrior 35 times, and it's just like getting back up and running at you. But it feels like the feeling in God of War is something that most players may not consciously think of, but that is what really drives home the combat in that game. And again, it's a game like Charles was describing in Devil May Cry, where the context of your positions on the analog sticks and the buttons really matter. So holding up does a different thing, holding down, and all the combinations of that will get you some wild combos. But that is going to do it for us today. It's going to be a wrap. And today's real life advice is always wear sunscreen.
Even if it's 20 degrees.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for being with us.
Yes, I hope the episode did not double drag on.